are going to affect both parties, Democrat and Republican, the next election, and also the direction of the presidency and our financial policy for America, which is pretty darn insane. It's following the European lead, which is almost like a heroin addict on their last run with the we want more poison bailout, but we know it's going to kill us. So why don't you tell us the whole story of what happened?
Okay. Well, I can tell you that the Wall Street interests who around Obama and the Democratic Party who chose to commit political suicide by denouncing and going against my campaign is facing a real backfiring right now. We were able to gain in the runoff election. The first is the fact that we were able to force a runoff election in the state of Texas with all of the opposition coming out against me because of my resounding attacks and emphasis that this President Obama has to be impeached and has to go, and the only solution to a real recovery is GLASS-STEAGILL and a sound economic recovery program based on what Mr. LaRouche laid out had a real impact on the population. The fact that we made GLASS-STEAGILL, or we made the return to the Franklin Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy tradition, the only solution that's going to save and revive the true tradition of the Democratic Party, really set into the minds of a lot of the population, especially the Hispanic population, and also those people who really connected to that tradition of the Democratic Party of the John F. Kennedy, Franklin Roosevelt. So I was able to gain about 3 out of 10 votes. I got over 110,000 votes in this election, and was basically given close to, I guess it was something around, given close to 28% of the vote. And I can tell you now, look, these guys in the Democratic Party, they had a discussion to do everything that they could from the top, from the White House on down, to stop me at all costs and to stop what we were putting out. But they have failed in that.
Even if it killed their party in the state of Texas.
Say it again.
Even if they killed the party, they committed political suicide. It's a Pyrrhic victory. It's insanity.
Yeah, it very much is. And the problem is that they can't kill the party because the reality that we put out is still on the table. We made impeachment the subject of discussion, and now this is coming out all over the place. We made GLASS-STEAGILL the subject of discussion, and it's needed now more than ever because you look at what the reality is about the crisis that we face. This whole financial system is coming down now, and Lyndon LaRouche could not have been more correct in terms of the devastation that this bail-in policy was going to implement. And you got to look at the whole breakdown of the transatlantic system. As he's been saying, the bail-in is ready to be implemented in full steam. And I'll just tell you one quick thing just to kind of put that into perspective, because I think that in order to look at what happened in Texas, you really have to look at this from the standpoint of the top-down global strategic situation. And look, it was just announced today with the continuation of this bail-in policy that, first of all, Standard & Poor's has just downgraded the 7 leading banks of Austria in Europe. And this, Austria is basically supposed to be the most stable banking in Europe right now. So what is left? They're moving right now to destroy what is left of the banking system, and you have that going on at the same time that the financial sector in Europe is completely freaked out that they're not getting at the rate they want the type of money printing and quantitative easing that they think is necessary to kill off the population with mass austerity so that they can continue to keep their financial system afloat. And they know... In other words,
if they don't acquire more assets by printing money, this is basically an asset bubble that they're creating, according to Gerald Celente.
Absolutely. That's what it is. And the bubble's not going to last. And so the only option we know is that the United States has to move immediately on Glass-Steagall banking regulations as the first priority to shut down this whole bubble system, this quantitative easing, and this killer bail-in policy.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that this is going on right now, and that the people like Obama are still treading water, thinking it's going to be fine.
Yeah. Well, just look at, how much of a fight that we've created, what I did with my campaign. And people really don't have a sense of what this campaign has represented, because you look at the fact that this wasn't just about an election. This was about completely transforming the policy discussion and the direction that this nation is going to go. And to give people, my intention, which I was quite successful at, was to give people the freedom to actually come out and fight. And you look at what's happening right now. First of all, what we did here in Texas, and then you have Eric Cantor, who is, big Wall Street, Obama-con. He just got skunked in his primary election. Eric Cantor, who is the second ranking in the House, who's the second ranking member, was actually, he outspent his opponent 28-1. Big time money. He was getting money from Wall Street, from everybody, and he got defeated by a Tea Party Republican guy. I'm not quite sure about who the other guy is, and that's not the point. The point is that, it has been Eric Cantor and Boehner who have been the key people, along with Obama, who protected the Wall Street interests and said Glass-Steagall is absolutely off the table. But at the same time, now that he has been defeated, you now have an opening for more people to come in and say, the Wall Street has to be crushed now, that we have to move immediately on Glass-Steagall. And that's what you're starting to see. As an example, you had a hearing that took place just a day or two ago with Elizabeth Warren and the head of the IAM, Buffenbarger, and in that discussion, immediately what came out was the need to have Glass-Steagall banking regulation put forward immediately, and both of them got into a discussion, whereas before, any time that someone would bring up Glass-Steagall, it would be immediately crushed. And so this is what's going on. This is what we're shaping, is that as this global financial system is disintegrating, we're moving in and giving people the means to be able to stand up and fight for the only policy solutions that's going to turn the situation around.
Yeah, you have these policy articles listed up. Not an Option and Immediate Necessity by Lyndon LaRouche, dated the June 10th article. He talks about the fact of just how severe the situation is. And I'll quote, "The economy of the United States of America and also that of the transatlantic political economic regions of the planet are now under the immediate mortal danger of a general physical, economic, chain reaction breakdown crisis of that region, of the planet as a whole." The name of that for that direct breakdown crisis.
pH drops for just $29.95. Call 800-518-7615 or visit alkavision.com. That's ALKA Vision.com. Alkalize your body and supercharge your health at the new alkavision.com.
Free from the shackles of corporate America, we're the place for independent thinkers. GCN.
KESHA, let's go through some of these things. If those people have listened to the first hour on Wednesdays before with yourself, KESHA, or with Harley Schlanger or any of the other amazing, important people over at LaRouche Foundation, let's go over the plan, the 4-point plan that Lyndon talks about in this article.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, The 4-point plan, I think the first of all, understand, why do you need this 4-point plan? Well, you need this plan and what it represents, because this is the key to establishing the new presidency. Anybody who is going to actually act in a position of leadership and to recognize that, as we've just been discussing the first segment here, that the entire financial system, the war drive, and everything that has been put forth right now has been a policy on behalf of a British Empire to destroy that conception of the constitutional republic that's been laid out. And so, look, we got to go in there, as we have been emphasizing with my campaign and with my colleagues, such as Michael Steger, who just ran a very effective campaign. I had a chance to be in San Francisco recently, helping Michael the last few days of his campaign, that there has to be a clear direction on the table of where the nation must go. So, Mr. LaRouche has laid out very scientific measures of how we have to deal with this banking financial crisis and this war drive. And first of all, the only solution to be put on the table is going to be to get this president out now. And then, as we've been discussing, we can go forward with a immediate reenactment of Glass-Steagall, the original Franklin Roosevelt Glass-Steagall law, and, as Mr. LaRouche says, without modification, such as what was tried to be done under the Dodd-Frank Act, which is not Glass-Steagall at all. It's nothing more than more Bell-in quantitative easing policy. And then so Glass-Steagall, people know that that's not enough. That is, the whole banking system has been so far removed and so far destroyed right now by this speculative interest, this Wall Street interest, that just going in and reinstating Glass-Steagall is not going to in itself solve the problem. So you have to come in with a top-down reorganization of the banking system, which was critical in what Franklin Roosevelt did when he brought in all of during the Pecora commissions, Ferdinand Pecora, his attorney there, who looked at all of these banks, looked at the assets on the books and said, okay, what is legitimate, what is not legitimate? How do we actually reestablish a sound banking system? And national banking policy, Mr. LaRouche really clarifies that, there was very critical points throughout the course of our nation's history where this actually was followed in a sound way, such as with Abraham Lincoln's policy toward the greenback and, what he was doing to actually re-implement what was constitutionally found in Article 1, Section 8 of our U.S. Constitution by developing the greenback policy and reestablishing what had been set into place by Alexander Hamilton as a national banking system where, as we know, the Federal Reserve is a void and not, Federal Reserve is not in control of our banking system, not legally or constitutionally sound.
Yeah, the banking system controls it, right?
Right.
That's what you're getting at.
So we
the other way around right now, they set policy that basically is ultra vires. It's above our Congress, which I don't think is smart. So they can,
So you got to put the policy back into the hands of the Federal Treasury. But what do? You make sure the banking system is sound, as Lincoln did with the greenback policy, to create federal credit for large-scale programs, for science driver programs, for increases in your technology, in your productive standards of living, as we did with the transcontinental railway system. It wasn't just a railroad. This was a total increase in the productive standards of living of your population. As later on, we had Franklin Roosevelt do with the Tennessee Valley Authority as an example. And so that's what the federal credit, which is the third step of Mr. LaRouche's proposal for recovery is going to be put in. And if federal credit is put into anything less than the highest technological scientific advancements, then in increasing discoveries, increasing what's called the energy flux density of, in programs going toward real science driver projects, then it's worthless. And the last thing, as an example of what you put that in high energy density programs, would be the creation of adoption of a fusion driver program, which is Mr. LaRouche's fourth point. And that...
You're talking about nuclear fusion energy is what you're referring to.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah. Now, you know that one of the things that I've mentioned this before with Harley is because of my access, because I had Q-level security clearance, which is the same level as the president, as a doctor taking care of employees at U.S. Space Command, Strategic Defense, Star Wars, that we already have fusion drives. The problem is that a lot of these things are stuck away in Warehouse 13. Some of them are being used for very evil things like geoengineering the weather. We've had far more advanced space program than the public one that people don't realize. We have an entire armada, if you want to call it, of space vehicles, off-world space programs, etc. And the fusion drive system should be brought out of Warehouse 13. That's one of the big problems, is that they don't bring out these technologies that we've already developed. And there's all kinds of, Rand Corporation in 75 came up with an idea of even putting a solar array just to collect sunlight, create microwave beam to ground. That alone, they calculated out back in 75, could have created enough power to power North America, just one system put up in space in low Earth orbit. That doesn't even talk about nuclear fusion or cold fusion, which there's a scientist up in Vancouver, Canada, has a cold fusion reactor that he's already proven that works. So the part of the problem is there's a direct suppression by corporations and by the government because they don't want this. They're also, Obama's instituting old nuclear technology, which is dangerous. And fusion technology is where we need to go because there's no isotopes left over. It's not dangerous. It doesn't generate material for nuclear warfare, which basically we've got to make obsolete. The idea of spreading, like Rosatom of Russia, nuclear reactors to create plutonium and other detonating materials is extremely stupid. We cannot tolerate a World War III, and asymmetric warfare doesn't work because lesser republics like Iran are always allied with large countries like Russia, and ultimately things will get into a full exchange. So,
right, you got to make this driver accessible to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, we need to pop open Warehouse 13. We need to get this technology. Get credit to the small businessman. Amazing plans, KESHA. You're going to continue the next two segments. I'll be back in hour number 3 with Bob Thiel, Dr. Bob Thiel.
KESHA Rogers, and I'm back here filling in for Dr. Deagle, and I wanted to just kind of continue the discussion that we started a moment ago on the 4-point solution that Mr. LaRouche has laid out. And as we were talking about, I think one of the things I wanted to let people know is that there is going to be a conference coming up on this coming Sunday. I would like to invite everyone to go out to who has the means to do so, and you can find out more information about that by calling into our office here. You can also get that information on LaRouchePAC.com. It's going to be the 30th anniversary of the Schiller Institute, and the Schiller Institute, which is named by German poet of freedom Friedrich Schiller, was founded by Helga Zepp LaRouche, Mr. LaRouche's wife, and in Germany. And this is going to be the 30-year anniversary. The Schiller Institute was founded probably about 5 years after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And very important conference because it's going to be titled a world without war. It's time to create a world without war. And this conference is going to actually have key people from about 6 different nations who will be participating. The subject of discussion is going to be crucial on looking at how it really is the case that you can't have a society which is one half slave and half free, or should we say half British Empire and half slave. And right now, those two worlds cannot sustain. And that's where we're at right now, that you have the British Empire, the imperial rule that's moving right now with their insane policies of war, as we see the escalation that's continuing, the provocations continuing against China, the provocations against Russia. You have the insane support of Nazi operations in Ukraine right now, and that situation is becoming more and more out of control. You have a complete, as the Prime Minister in Russia just declared, this is a bloody suppression going on in Ukraine. And the fact that the United States is still sending over people like Victoria Nuland, who has no business over in Ukraine, trying to decide what the policies in the government of Ukraine should be, especially in regards to trying to support the overthrow of legitimate government for a Nazi regime. This has to be stopped. This lady should have been thrown out a long time ago with Obama, both on their asses, because this is completely insane. So how are we going to overcome this? Because what you have is, this is what's been going on for quite some time, that you have what has been defined as the emergence of colored revolutions that go back to George Soros and his denunciation or his policies to destroy the sovereignty of nation state, and him just being a tool of the real interest behind this, which has been the British Empire and associates such as Tony Blair. So what's the intention of these so-called colored revolutions? To go in and rip apart and destroy nations. It has been to destroy the sovereignty of nations as was established under the direction of coming out of 100 years warfare in Europe around what was established called the 1648 Treaty of Westphalia. So what we see now in terms of the destruction of nation states has been to destroy this commitment to the future progress and collaboration and common aims of mankind. And that's what people who attend this conference are going to really see. And as I said, you can call our office. The number again is 1-800-922-2907. We can get you registered. This is going to be held in New York. We can get you all that information, or you can go to LaRouchePAC.com and you'll find that information there as well. So I wanted to invite people out to this because right now I don't think enough people have a sense of how important your role is in shaping the direction of where the future of mankind must go and where it must be directed. So there are a couple of other things just in terms of looking at here what Mr. LaRouche is continuing to put on the table in terms of the responsibility, and I want to make this a subject here of the responsibility that each of you have in this immediate period ahead to ensure that we can actually put a stop to these criminal policies against our nation, against our Constitution, by demanding that Congress immediately take action. And what we want to do as with this 4-point policy plan, these are not just nice ideas. These are not just an internal discussion here, but people need to get onto the website and to actually study this policy, because this is legislative policy. This is what you call the discussion of how you actually shape real policy for a nation, which is going to be the existence of how you actually think about the future progress of mankind, and not just what the immediate needs of society are, but how are you going to address the needs for 2 to 3 generations down the line. And I got a copy of Mr. LaRouche's report here, where he just really emphasized, as he went through these 4 points, that of 4 laws, as he called it, to say the 4 new laws to save the USA now. And as he made the point, these are not an option; they are an immediate necessity. So that necessity flows with the understanding of, well, as I said before, if we don't succeed in accomplishing this goal, then what is going to happen to the existence of mankind on this planet? We've already seen that you have had the usurping of nation states by this British imperial rule, that the whole financial system is bankrupt. And right now, the empire is doing everything that they can to try and sustain their system, which is rapidly deteriorating. And as that system comes down, which we know it's on the verge of doing so more rapidly than ever, what is going to be put there to replace it? And that's where we come in, because our responsibility is going to be to shaping the new institution of the presidency, and as was the idea of what Franklin Roosevelt and John F. Kennedy understood. Hello. Yes, this is Kesha Rogers. Sorry about that. I pressed the wrong button. You can, wanted to just let people know again that you can call into the office at 1-800-922-2907. We need everybody out there to get involved. This is your future on the line. Find out more about how you can participate in this conference, how you can contribute to the fight. I know a lot of people listen to these discussions with Dr. Deagle, Harley, myself, and others regularly, and we need you all to be active participants in the process. As Benjamin Franklin said, this is a republic. We give you a republic if you can keep it. So, and you can also go to the website at LaRouchePAC.com. And what I wanted to do just for the last segment is just to take the last part of Mr. LaRouche's 4 laws to save the United States on the 3rd point that he makes on the question of the adoption of a fusion driver for the nation, and just really put that into perspective, because I think that is really the question of how we as human beings think about ourselves as above and beyond the animal species to really put this question into perspective of what was laid out in Genesis 1 of multiplying, subduing the earth, and having dominion over the earth, and actually recognizing that we are co-creators. And our responsibility is to actually be able to solve the challenges that confront mankind. Our responsibility here on planet Earth is to actually look at our responsibility is to go out into the depths of the solar system, into the galaxy, and to actually gain dominion and conquer all of the creation and all of the solar system. And so when you think about why is it that we're dealing with things such as we don't have enough food supply, energy supply, that we are sitting here and allowing absurd, insane policies such as green environmentalism or fracking to dictate the direction of the nation on behalf of some greedy financial speculators. You know, the President Obama just said that one of the top priorities is going to be to put price tag on carbon emissions. The most important thing that Obama is concerned about, the British Empire and the green environmentalist genocide agenda, is to destroy and kill the population by taking away the commitment toward real scientific progress, an anti-science agenda. I mean, this has been going on since the Copenhagen, since the Queen, along with people such as Schellenhuber and others, said that we have to put a stop to all nations which try to progress scientifically. And this is, I think, the top priority in the fourth point of Mr. LaRouche's four laws to recovery, is it really gets at the essence of how we think about ourselves and our unique role as human beings. And I just wanted to quote something from his paper here where he talks about the Russian Academy, the Russian Vladimir Vernadsky, who is the geoscientist, geologist and chemist and scientist. And Vladimir Vernadsky really just took off and coined this conception of the power of human nature, or what human beings represent as, and should I say, not just human beings, but cognition as the higher order of society. So in his report here, which is a very short report, and as I said, I tell people to go to the website. It's 2 pages, and study this and take it out to your friends and everywhere that you go and get some discussion going. But because people are looking for solutions, and the solutions aren't going to be quick fixes. They're going to be a transformation of the culture and the thinking in society. So what he says, it's a section called Vernadsky on Man and Creation. V.I. Vernadsky's systemic principle of human nature is a universal principle, which is uniquely specific to the factor of the existence of the human species. For example, time and space do not actually exist as metrical principles of the solar system. Their only admissible employment of purposes of communication is relative, not actual. Since competent science for today can be expressed only in terms of the characteristic of the human species role within the known aspects of the universe, the human principle is the only true principle known to us for practice. And so you think about, well, people say, well, you know, you can't accomplish fusion, or you can't accomplish what needs to be done to actually address the needs of society. there's always going to be a shortage of resources. There's always going to be a shortage of supplies. I mean, this is absolutely absurd because, well, what is the unique role of mankind? Well, we have the means above any other species to change the conditions of our environment and society around us. As President Lincoln once said, man does not live as their fathers and grandfathers before them, continuing to exist on the same technologies and the same resources as before. We're able to create new conditions of life, as unlike the beavers, where the beavers dam dams, just as the beaver fathers and grandfathers did, and they cannot change their conditions of life, cannot change their habitat. And then, so the whole idea is that mankind has the ability to overcome what is seen as what is seen as simple space and time, and actually to look at the universe around them in a completely different manner. And so when we're talking about the adoption of a fusion driver crash program, this is not just a in-the-box, should I say, bubble of that is known to only some people. What Dr. Deagle was saying a moment ago, we got to make sure that this becomes the transformation of our culture, the transformation of society. We need to make sure that the mortality rates of our children in Detroit and other places across the United States and across the world are not at devastating levels, because we're more concerned about policies to push adoption of green environmentalism, solar panels and windmills and so forth, than we are to actually improving the conditions of life for everybody on the planet. And that's what's going to be crucial about why each and every one of you listening to this, and I'm glad I get a chance to talk to you, because just in terms of, really making the point that you got to get active now, that this is your immortal responsibility. And so I look forward to hearing more from all of you. Once again, call into the office, 1-800-922-2907.
Henry Ford once said, "A man who stops advertising to save money is like a man who stops a clock to save time." Alex Castle here, the National Account Executive at GCN. I have the ability to customize a national radio campaign based on your budget while targeting your demographic. Contact me to find out how national radio can help your business be more profitable at 877-996-4327, extension 177. That's 877-996-4327, extension 177, and help me help you bring your business to the next level.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect